A wise man once said, "Brand new whip, got no keys." I never felt the statement more than I feel that statement at this moment in time. Because as you guys can see, I just got a brand new car. Now, I know you guys are probably wondering, Jordan, what type of car did you get? Or maybe by now I've probably already put out some type of car tour video or something like that, but I just want to explain how I manifested this, bro, because this is one of the most magical stories I think I've ever had the chance to experience in my life. So, for those of you who don't know me in real life, I love cars. Okay, I'm not a car fanatic or a car enthusiast per se, but I love cars. I love the idea of cars. I love driving. I just love everything about cars. Now, for a while, my dream car has been a Tesla Model 3 Performance. I even have it on my vision board back there. That's not to say that I don't like that car anymore, but if you guys watched my Vegas vlog, you see that I realized a few things about the car that in practice were very, very inconvenient. For example, I don't have charging at my apartment. So if I wanted to charge that car, I would have to drive about 20 minutes away just to charge that car. And who knows how many people might be at that charger. I might have to wait for an hour in line and then charge the car for another 30 minutes or an hour. Time is money. Okay, I can't be over here waiting to charge my car like that. I just don't have the time for all of that. And in addition to that, the insurance prices on Teslas were absolutely ridiculous. They were quoting me at $350, $400 a month. Makes no sense whatsoever, but I just took it as a sign that maybe now is not the time to get a Tesla. Now, for a while, I've been in the market for a new car, and as my income has increased, I've looked at nicer cars, just progressively nicer and nicer cars, until I got to what I got today, which is a BMW 330i. Now, to some people, that might be a really nice car. For other people, that might be an economy car. I don't know. It's all relative. But compared to what I used to drive, that's a nice car. Now, I started getting into BMW maybe a couple of weeks ago, which I know sounds kind of crazy. I always liked BMWs, but I never actually drove one until a few weeks ago. And ever since I drove that car, I could not get it out of my mind. I simply couldn't get it out of my mind. I knew I had to get one. Now, I didn't necessarily know how because I just moved into my new apartment. Okay, so I'm obviously having to pay rent, but I knew that I wanted to get that car and I was going to make it happen. So I started to just visualize it. Okay, I started to go on the website and configure it. And doing that turned into me sending in those builds to the dealer to get quotes on it. And then that turned into back and forth communication. Now, for those of you who are unaware, the car market right now is in shambles. Okay, there's a chip shortage, supply chain issues amongst a lot of different manufacturers. In other words, cars are much more expensive than what they usually are. Now, initially, I saw this as an obstacle, a barrier. I thought, damn, since cars are more expensive, that means I just can't afford one right now. But then I started to change my line of thinking. Okay, and like I said, this is all happening at the same time. I'm aligning myself in terms of my thoughts, my feelings, my beliefs, and my actions. So I'm getting these quotes from the dealership. I'm visualizing myself driving this new car. Okay, I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it. And this is all happening in a span of 2 to 3 weeks. But the universe works fast if you allow it to. So I initially thought that the way that the car market is right now would present an obstacle for me. But then I started to shift my thinking, and that's when I realized that if new cars are costing more, used cars are costing more. Manufacturers are willing to pay more for used cars as well. Now, I used to drive, and that sounds weird to say. It sounds really weird to say used to because this was literally a few hours ago, but I used to drive a 2015 Kia Optima hybrid. The car was fully paid off. I got it from my dad. It was his car. When he bought a new car, he gave it to me. Okay, he just gave it to me. So I had a fully paid off car. Now I know there are already people cringing watching this video because you already see where I'm going with this, but I promise you it's not what you think. Kind of. So basically what I did was I ran the Kelly Blue Book value of that car. Okay, and it came out to about $12,500, but I felt like I could get more than that. I put the number in my head of $13,000. I wanted to get $13,000 for that car. Even though the Kelly Blue Book value said $12,500, I said I want to get $13,000 for that car. So I thought about that number, $13,000. Now, my rent is, after fees and everything, about $1,250 to $1,300 a month, give or take. And then I started thinking, if I were to get that $13,000, I could pay off my rent for the whole entire year. And then I could go and get a new car. And instead of paying for my rent, I just make a car payment. Now, initially, the idea seemed too good to be true. It seemed way too good to be true, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there's no loopholes in this logic. It works. It simply works. And not only that, but depending on the type of car I got, I would be saving money while driving a newer car, which is actually the case right now. Even though I overpaid for this BMW by quite a bit, I still am saving money every single month by driving this car because I used the money from my old car to pay for my rent for the whole year, my whole lease term. I don't have to worry about rent anymore. So in other words, my income, that's going towards the car, my food, and savings, and my YouTube expenses, which are few and far in between at this point. So I'm good, or at least I thought I was good. I looked at the quote, and the quote for that car is not the car that I ended up getting, but it was a 230i, a 2022 230i, a lease. And I'm going to explain why I leased the car in a second. Okay, but a 230i, they were quoting me at about $790 per month. $790. Now, initially I misread the quote, and I'll probably put a screenshot on the screen right now, but I looked at the cost of the car, the total cost, came out to like $46,000, I believe. So the MSRP was $41,000. What I thought was going to happen was I thought they were going to make me pay the difference there in the taxes, the fees, all of that stuff, and then maybe put money down as well. So that poked a major hole in my plan because if I have to put money down on a car, if I have to put a lot of money down, that basically negates what I'm doing because all of the money that I would save from the difference between my rent payment and whatever car payment I got, plus insurance and everything like that, would be going towards me paying back that down payment. And by the time I paid that back, it would be time to pay rent again. Okay, so I realized that's probably not going to work. And from there, I started to go into panic mode. And when I say panic mode, that doesn't mean that I was, ungrateful or anything for the car that I had. I knew that I would be fine either way. But at the same time, I knew that I wanted that car. Okay, I wanted that car. So I started to just do a lot of inner work. Okay, I started to do a lot of inner work in terms of getting my mindset right. Because when your mind isn't in the right place, you won't see opportunities that are right there in front of you, or you might mislabel opportunities, misinterpret opportunities as obstacles. Hence, me thinking that the chip shortage was an obstacle and not a stepping stone. Now, I want to go ahead and throw this in here, okay? And I know I'm all over the place, but that's because I just bought the car literally an hour ago and my mind is all over the place. But Thanksgiving, me and my dad were talking about car insurance for my Kia. Okay, so usually, because the car was in his name, usually what would happen was I would pay a portion of the insurance because the car was in his name on his policy. So I would just pay a portion of the insurance, which this year came out to $800. Okay, and I think that $800 was actually for next year, not this year. So Thanksgiving, he tells me that next year, around June or so, I need to get him $800. I went out to the ATM, I withdrew $800, and I gave it to him right then and there because I didn't like the idea of just having that $800 looming off on the horizon. So I gave him the $800. Now, this $800, okay, that's for the old car. With me buying a new car, he's giving me that money back because now there's no insurance to pay for that car because the car is not in his name anymore. It's gone. Now, keep that number in your mind. Okay, $800. Okay, where did you hear that number last time? Or a number similar to that? Okay, the $800 perfectly lines up with that monthly payment of $790. Okay, so I saw that this morning, literally this morning. I noticed that. And I was like, wait a minute. Let me look at what the total drive-off cost is again. What am I going to owe the day that I get the car? So I call the guy up and I ask him, what will I owe BMW if I were to get this car? What would I have to pay you guys on that day? He tells me that all I have to pay for is that first month's payment. Basically what BMW did, I'm not sure if every BMW dealership does this, but what they did was they took the taxes, they took the fees, everything, lumped it all into the MSRP. That was my lease payment. So all I have to do is pay that lease payment. Now the lease payment is pretty high as a result because it brought the MSRP up. But at the same time, I don't have to worry about putting down a down payment. Okay, because that $800 that I'm getting back, that $800 goes straight into that first month's lease payment. So in other words, I just finessed the system. I just finessed the system completely, right? So that $800 that I was going to pay anyways for insurance now goes towards the car for the first month. Now, the moment that I realized that, I went back on the BMW website and I started looking at their inventory again. First, I looked at the inventory for the BMW dealership that I went to initially, and I didn't really like what I saw there. So I decided to go to another BMW dealership in search of the 230i, because on the website it said that they had the 230i available at the store, at the dealership. So I drove about 40 minutes out there just to find out that both of them were sold. Now, initially I was a little bit pressed. Okay, I was heated because I left my apartment with the intention of buying a new car. I did not want to come back without a new BMW. Even though the 230i's that I saw on their website weren't the spec that I wanted, I was willing to settle because I wanted the car now. And that's something I have to work on. I can definitely become a lot more patient, but that's just where I am right now. Now, on the way there, I was thinking to myself, man, it would be nice if they had this exact spec. Okay, now, if you have a BMW or if you're into BMWs or anything like that, then you're probably going to know some of these specs, but I wanted the mineral gray metallic, okay, because I like gray cars. I wanted the cognac interior, which is like a brown color, and I wanted the premium package, okay, the premium package, which gives you a moonroof, it gives you heated seats, all of these cool features, all of these great things, heated steering wheel, all of that stuff. I was thinking that on the way there. And I get there, and like I said, even the ones that I didn't want, they were already sold anyways. So I was like, man, that sucks. But I started talking to the dealer, and I asked him about the 330i because that was the car that I initially test drove that I actually fell in love with. And the 330i and the 230i are not the same car. Okay, the 230i is more of a sporty car. The 330i is a little bit more luxurious. It's also more expensive, or so I thought. So as I'm talking to him, he's looking through the inventory and he finds one. Now, mind you, I didn't even tell him the spec that I wanted. And he's looking through the 330i inventory. He finds one, mineral gray metallic, cognac interior, 2022, brand new. I say, yo, I need you to run a quote for me on that. Now, mind you, after the fees and taxes and everything, the 230i came out to about $46,000 MSRP. The 330i, on the other hand, came out to about $48,000 MSRP. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I don't think I'm gonna be able to afford this car, but I'll just look at it. But while we're talking, I decide to show him the quote that the other dealer gave me for the 230i. And he looks at it and he laughs a little bit. And he said something about tax incentives. I didn't know what he was talking about at first. He said he didn't give you your tax incentives. And like I said, I didn't know what this meant. Okay, I didn't know what this meant, but I just asked him to run me the quote. The quote came out to $720 a month. Okay, so instead of $790, $720 a month. Which it may not sound like a significant difference, but if I offered you $70 a month, I'm sure you would take it. So apparently what he did was he had tax credits that lowered the tax, which lowered the overall MSRP. And I think 3 Series cars are typically better structured in their lease agreements than the 230s are. And the 330 is just a nicer car in general. The only reason why I wanted the 230i was because I thought it would be cheaper. So now I'm potentially getting a nicer car for less money. Now, I'm a very impulsive person. I almost signed on the dotted line right then and there. But I decided, you know what, let's be at least somewhat logical and take the car on a test drive first. So he brought out a 330i that they had on the lot, and I took it on another test drive just to make absolute sure that I wanted that car. And we went on the test drive. I loved it. Okay, I loved it just as much, if not more, than I did the first time I drove it. Now, as we're pulling back into the lot, I point out my car to him. And he asks me if I want to trade it in. Now remember, the Kelley Blue Book value said $12,500. I thought that that's what I was going to get, and I just assumed that trading the car in, they would try to finesse me. Okay, they would try to lowball me. So I told him, well, I plan on selling it independently, but you can go ahead and check and see how much you guys would give me for it. So he says, okay. He gets it inspected or whatever they do, and comes back. He says, we can give you $13,000. Where did you hear that number before? Where did you hear that $13,000 number before? Okay, 13,000, bro. I almost passed out when he told me that. Okay, $13,000. Like I said, that is enough to cover my rent for the whole year. Okay, $13,000. So right then and there, I already knew what time it was. I called my dad. I said, yo, I need you to come down to the dealership immediately. Because, like I said, the car is in his name. So I can't sell it. He has to sell it. So he comes down to the dealership, and we go through the paperwork. And I came back home with a BMW 330i. 2022, mineral gray metallic with the cognac interior, just like I wanted. And not only that, but I'm paying less money than I would for my rent. Now, like I said earlier, I leased the car, and that is for a few reasons, because I know a few people are going to try to roast me in the comments about leasing. For one, BMWs are typically pretty reliable cars up until about the 3 to 4 year mark. My lease is for 36 months, 3 years. Okay, after that, I do not want that car anymore because I don't want to have to pay thousands of dollars every year just to keep the car running. I just don't want to have to deal with that. If you're going to pay that much for maintenance, you might as well just get a new car with that same money. Okay, so there's that. And in addition to that, I forgot to mention, but the maintenance is free for the whole lease term. I don't have to pay for maintenance the whole time. No maintenance fees at all. Oil changes, all of that is free, complimentary. Okay, so that $720 number, like I said, it seems high, but when you factor in that there's no down payment other than that first month's lease payment, which I didn't even have to do that either. They told me that I didn't have to do that if I didn't want to. I just chose to, but I didn't have to. The fact that I'm getting free maintenance, I'm getting a cheaper payment than I would with my rent. My insurance came out to about $206 a month, I believe, which you add that to the $720, comes out to what? $926. Okay, my rent is like $1,250 to $1,300. Okay, so you add in premium fuel and maybe 1 to 2 fill-ups a month. That's like what, $80, $100 a month? Okay, add that in, come out to about $1,026. I got a covered parking spot to protect the car, another $50. Boom. Okay, I'm saving a couple of $100 every single month by driving this brand new car. All because I changed my frequency and realized that the answer was right in front of me. Okay, here I was thinking, there's no way I'm going to be able to get this car. I'm going to have to wait it out. I'm going to have to wait for the chip shortage to end. But the chip shortage is actually the thing that got me into that car. Okay, because had the chip shortage not happened, they wouldn't have given me as much for my car. I wouldn't have had enough money. And like I said earlier, another reason why I wanted to lease the car is because I didn't have to make a down payment. When you buy a car, unless your credit is damn near a perfect credit score, you're going to have to make a pretty sizable down payment. And like I said, I would just be trying to recoup from that down payment. I would be trying to make up that difference. I didn't have to make a down payment. That down payment was the $800 that would have went to my insurance for the other car. Okay, so like I said, I'm not losing any money from this at all. I'm getting money back. Now I know some of you may be thinking, okay, well, what happens after this lease term ends for your rent? Okay, when you have to renew your rent. That's where the leap of faith comes in. That's where self-belief comes in. I know I'm going to be making enough money. Now, I know you guys, some of you may not believe in that, and that's fine. Okay, there were a lot of people that didn't believe in me when I quit my job and when I dropped out of school. But look at me now.